Now here we have a case wherein we have created a sales tracker wherein I just need to enter the sales values for each of these product categories for the company. And now this would be a month-on-month data. And towards the end, we just take a total. So the sum function is already in place. And we just want to demonstrate this and show that how this tool works. Now, how do we do that? Now we have total of 36 cells here, and randomly adding numbers over here, it's quite a time-consuming affair. So for our relief, Excel has provided a function called as rand, R-A-N-D, rand. And here you do not need to enter any arguments or any parameters within this. You just need to close the bracket and hit enter. So by default, the rand function gives you figures in the form of decimals. The rand function returns values between 0 and 1. And if you would have noticed, every time I change something in a cell, this refreshes. Now, so we need to be very careful about this, that every time there is any change in any part of the file, this value will keep on changing. Now, let me show you how. I drag this formula to the right. You see, this number changed again. Now, if I were to drag this formula down, just keep a close watch on one or two of these numbers. And while I drag this formula down, you will see those numbers changing. Here it is. So this is how the rand function works. It gives you the values over here. Now, if I were to talk about this in the form of millions of dollars, then yes, this could be so. It's $0.72 million, but I see multiple decimal places over here. So I can use a comma over here or Control Shift exclamation on the keyboard. It can round it up to 2 decimal places. And here we have this. Now let's say this is how the rand function works. Now let's say the values that I'm talking about need not be in decimals, but rather the whole numbers. This was the amount that I was talking about. Now I want to also mention the sales volume. Now this will not be in the form of rounded up millions or billions, but it will be a whole figure, whole number. So we'll just copy this, paste it down, copy this again and paste it down here. We have another format, so we'll say sum, use the formula here, make this bold. Now every time I'm making some change over here in any cell, the values above are changing. So I apply this formula here. Now let's say I know that my sales will be in the range of 1,000 units to 5,000 units every month. This is the range that I'm looking at. So I have another function that is rand between, R-A-N-D, rand between. Now here we can mention the lower limit and the upper limit. So here the bottom is 1,000, that's the lower limit. Ensure you do not put commas while entering numbers in functions. Comma, the top, it's 5,000. And close the brackets, and you see it's 2,044. Let's expand this formula to the right. Again, the numbers will keep on changing while you apply the formula down. So the rand and the rand between function does a good job in helping you populate or get some random numbers to demonstrate something. So this was rand between. And here when you say rand between, let me change this. For the rand between function, you need to specify a lower limit and the upper limit. Well, going by the Excel conventions, the lower limit is nothing but the bottom, and the upper limit, here we have rand between, returns a random number between the numbers you specify, and that's bottom and the top, right? The upper limit is the top. Now when it comes to rand function, I say rand. It says returns a random number greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1, evenly distributed. So that's the rand function for you, and we have the rand between over here for any numbers within the range. Now in case if you've got the numbers and you do not want this to change, sporadically like this, I recommend select the cells, copy them, and again on the same cells, right click, paste as values. And here we have this values in place. Now come what may, these values will not change. If I were to delete something here, these values are changing, but this will not change. I clear this off. Now similarly, if I want these numbers to remain as it is, I'll copy them, right click, paste as values. And here we have them. All the numbers you can check in the formula bar, the rand function and the rand between functions are gone. So this way we can have some static numbers here. Otherwise, the values will keep on changing. Now there is no guarantee that the moment I enter rand function over here, and simultaneously when you type the rand function, there is no guarantee that we will get exactly the same numbers. There is a possibility that it wouldn't be anywhere close either. Okay, it's just a randomly populated numbers by your Excel. At times, you might need to work with lengthy data spanning across hundreds of records or maybe even thousands of rows, and you might want to use this data for your presentation. Maybe one major point of your presentation would be to observe the import trend for the entire Europe, and maybe to also highlight a specific country and see how it's working. For example, let's say the United States. I want to see only the data for United States. Now, filtering does work. Let's say here we have the extract of global imports that was from the OECD. And here I might want to filter just United States, and I get the data and it's perfect. Now, in order to show this during the presentation, I might probably copy this, paste it in a separate worksheet or somewhere aside and show it as a separate table. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I would also want to look at the European data. So select this and click OK and refer to this. Well, that's very much doable. But thing is, in case if you do not have the bandwidth, or maybe it's too much of a clutter to have multiple data points over here, why do you need to create multiple data points when you can only show directly from your main data table? Well, it appears inconvenient over here, but Excel gives us a relief here as well. There is something called as custom views in Excel. And here in view menu, we can find it under the custom views. And here under the view menu, we can find custom views. And here under the view menu, you will find custom views. Now custom views here, you can give a name and you can customize the way how your data will look like. Let me just give you a brief example. First, this is a default view. That means the data, whatever we already have as it is. So I would like to create a base view. I'll click on add. I'll call it default view. Now it asks whether we need to include in view the print settings, hidden rows, columns. We say okay. That's good to be checked. Now this is the default view. Nothing has changed as of now, but I do not want to make any further changes that I do from now on. I want to ensure that I come back to this view that it was earlier. So now let's say I need to analyze the data for the United States. So I uncheck this and only select United States. Now we have the data for the United States. I click on custom view. I click on add. And here I'll say USA data. Click OK. And now let me show you. Here we have custom view. If I click on default view and click show, we are back to what it was earlier. Now in case if I need to just show the US data, then I can click again here, select US data, click on show, and here we have this. Now let's say we go back again to default view and try some more changes here. Let's say I'm only focusing on Africa. So I might want to filter by Africa. And here's just the data for South Africa among the African nations. Like I said, this is just an extract of the whole data. It's quite humongous. And for the purpose of this video and this session, I just took an extract of this entire data. Now here we have some data for South Africa. And I might want to just make this look bigger. So zoom this in. And I think I have zoomed in. And this is sufficient. So I click on Custom View. And I say Add Africa Data, click OK, and you have this. Now let me also add one more view over here. That is, let's say I want Asia and Central America in one place, but I do not want to see the month. So we have some rows over here filtered, and then I don't want to see the month column. I might want to hide this. Let's say I hide it. Now this looks quite large, so let me zoom this out. Now this looks just fine. Now here, based on this view, I'll create another custom view and call it Asia and Central America. Click OK. Now here we have this. I click on custom view. We have 4 such views over here, everything arranged alphabetically, but that does not matter. Now let me click on default view. We have the row that was hidden has come back again. Now if I change this to, let's say, Africa data, remember, while we were selecting Africa data, apart from filtering African records, we had also zoomed in slightly. So let's click on show, and you see the data is zoomed in. So whichever way or the layout or the style that you apply to this data set and give a name to that view, you have that custom view. Now moving on, let us test the views that we had prepared. So we had Asia and Central America. If you remember, we had hidden the last column that was month. Let's click on show. Okay, it's zoomed out because it is back to what it was earlier. That's 100% zoom rate, and we had that column D hidden again. Now if I click on this and click US data, here we have that column again, and we have USA data. Now if you were to click default view, everything is back again to normal. So with this way, we can create many other views that we need, and at the point of discussion during our meetings, we might just click on the specific views that we need and click on show, and we have it. This saves us from too much of redundant data in our file, and that also helps save the performance of the system as well as Excel. Now, custom views over here is always available under the view menu, and you have custom views over here. You can select and show, as I mentioned. But now let's say you do not want to click anywhere as such. You just want a shortcut. So in order to get a shortcut, here at the top of the window, you have save, undo, redo, and this is save as. Similarly, you can have another button over here or an icon for custom views. Let me show you how. In order to get this, either you can click on this drop down here and click on more commands. You come to this window. Well, in case if you are unable to get this icon or you do not see this button over here, there's an alternate way to reach here as well. Click on File menu. Under this, you have More. Well, in some systems, maybe you might not be able to see at first glance depending on the screen resolution. Maybe you might want to scroll down slightly and you can see that. Under More, look for Options. Now, under Options, you have Quick Access Toolbar. Now, click on Quick Access Toolbar, you come back again to the same window. Now, what we are looking for is Custom Filter. Here, these are the list of some popular commands that we generally use, or generally the users of Excel use day in and out. But what we are looking for is something different. So here in the drop down, instead of popular commands, we'll select all commands. Now that's a humongous list of all commands here. Now we need to scroll down till we find custom views. So we scroll down and here we have custom views. You can either double click on that or select it and click on add. And that's it. We have it. We had autosave, save, undo, redo, save as, and now next to save as you will see custom views icon as well. Click OK and here you have this. You see this bar? Here now I want to just change this to US data. Well, that's quite convenient here. Africa data, that's zoomed in. I come back to default view and then Asia Central. That's it. Now this is quite interesting here. Now, if you are into working with tons of data and you frequently need to use custom views, it's wise to have, or it would be quite convenient to have a shortcut over here that can be easily accessible as and when you need. But you need to understand one thing, that every time you add something to the quick access list over here, it just clutters the space as well. So ensure that you have tools that are relevant to your work, because as we proceed in Excel, there would be one more tool that we would discuss about. Right? Totally depends on the frequency of your usage. If you need it quite often, better have a shortcut here. Else, you might anytime come back to the view menu, and under view you have custom views. And that's it.